I was planning a longer, more complicated intro for this game, but instead, I want you to just watch the opening movie here and think about what kind of game this could be. As the world's being destroyed by orbital bombardment from an AI defense system, it turns out that this is an adventure game based on Japan's premier new wave pop band. Now, TM Network was not just a flash-in-the-pan boy band. They were kind of the definitive sound for 1980s Japanese rock music. And they've had longevity, despite disbanding for periods so that the members could go off and do solo projects. As of the time of this recording, they are currently back together and doing virtual concerts. In promotional materials, the TM stands for Time Machine, though the actual source was something else. And the Time Machine was definitely part of the inspiration for the game's plot. Despite TM Network being part of the game's title, the band only has the name TM Network for a couple more months after this. In 1990, they officially changed their name to TMN for some reason. TM Network Live in Power Bowl is one of my big disappointments in my Famicom collecting. Not because I got the game and played it. No, I passed on a box copy for 1,500 yen. Not the box that you see in the upper right-hand corner. This box. There was a collector's edition that came in a metal briefcase. Now, it's still not especially expensive, but the prices I'm finding for it now are in the range where I say, I really should spend that money on completing my collection rather than picking up a second copy of TM Network. There's also something special about the TM Network Live in Power Bowl cart. It's one of the few Famicom games to use a split-color case. The story of the game is that during that attack by the satellite Colosseum, you're sent backwards in time 10 years along with your personal computer. You arrive in TM Network's recording studio 2 days before Colosseum will launch. And so with the assistance of the band, you set out to prove that the future is not set, there is no fate but what we make for ourselves. And no, Colosseum does not send killer robots back in time to get you. That would have been cool. Instead, most of the adventure involves visiting the scientists who are going to launch Colosseum in a few days. As an adventure game, most of the time you're selecting commands from a menu. But here, there's only 3 commands. Go, Search, which has a cursor appear that you have to point at things, and MUE, which is your personal computer from the future, and thus has the ability to control all technology at least 10 years older than it. To use the computer, you select MUE, then you point at the thing you want to interact with, and then you often are given a choice of what to transmit. And here, all of the information that you've collected over the course of the game is listed. Phone numbers are mixed in with access codes for some reason. If you select the wrong thing, often it will lead to an immediate game over. The only way to continue in TM Network is to enter a password, and those are offered to you at regular intervals as you progress through the story. The fact that the game kills you quite frequently makes TM Network one of the harder Famicom adventure games to complete. But it is very short. I stopped my recording with less than 5 minutes of gameplay left. Why didn't I finish? Well, the last 2 things that you do in the game are not adventure game segments. Instead, you have a 3D maze that you have to avoid enemies in. The enemies are completely invisible, the maze controls don't work properly. I tell you what the controls are supposed to be, but I never managed to work it out myself. If you're caught by any of the invisible enemies who only show up in the mini-map in the lower right, then it's an instant game over. If you somehow manage to make it through the maze section, there's a nearly uncontrollable vehicle driving section. And then that's the end of the game. There's one more innovative thing about the adventure commands. If you get into a conversation with people, you sometimes will just have choices of what you can say to them. And again, picking wrong means game over. As an adventure game, TM Network Live in Power Bowl is remembered as one of the weirdest and worst on the Famicom. The band members show up at the beginning, and at the ending, but don't do a whole lot in between. And the way that the game kills you off and then forces you to enter a long password constantly wore down a lot of players. So I can't say that this is really a good game. I don't even think that the renditions of TM Network's music in the game are very good. It's a bad game, but it's also a memorable one. Definitely one of the strangest Famicom games out there.